Well, today, first-hand account of what we've been reporting for years, that news organizations often show bias against Israel, and it happened a lot during this summer's war with Hamas. A former reporter with the Associated Press is blowing the whistle. Chris Mitchell has his story from Jerusalem.
During the summer of 2014, Israel and Hamas fought for 50 days. Reporters from all over the globe covered the fighting, often filling their stories with conflicting information and questionable reporting. After the war, former AP reporter Mati Friedman wrote an article called An Insider's Guide to the Most Important Story on Earth.
And I decided at the end of the summer to write an essay looking at what has gone wrong through the lens of my own experiences.
For 7 years, Friedman reported for the Associated Press, a giant news organization that provides information to many other media outlets around the world. He says the AP and the mainstream press suffer from two malfunctions. One, Israel gets too much coverage, and two, the press has taken sides.
The mainstream press corps here has largely adopted an advocacy role. They've decided to play a political role in the conflict. They've decided to lobby for the side that they think is right, and political decisions are disguised as journalistic decisions.
Friedman says Hamas took advantage of the bias.
The strategy is to terrorize Israeli civilians using rockets, provoke an Israeli response, put civilians in Gaza in between the Israelis and the Hamas fighters by storing rockets in civilian basements, in the basements of mosques, in schools, and we've seen all those things documented this summer, and then having the huge international media contingent in Gaza film the civilian casualties, not the armed men, and use those pictures to spark outrage against Israel abroad, and that will prevent Israel from acting to the full extent of its strength against Hamas. That's the strategy. I think any intelligent person can see it, and yet it's not covered like that.
But the Associated Press refuted Friedman's claim. It issued a statement that said in part, his arguments have been filled with distortions, half-truths, and inaccuracies, both about the recent Gaza war and more distant events. His suggestion of AP bias against Israel is false. The AP denies Friedman's claim that the AP and other media ignored or underreported Hamas firing from mosques, schools, and UN facilities. But Friedman says the world is getting a skewed version of what actually is happening.
The story is, if you read between the lines and if you read the lines themselves, the story is that Israel is faced with a clear moral choice and is making the wrong choice. Israel could have peace, but it chooses war. That story is false.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.